Casting is a funny old thing. With the help of makeup, prosthetics, and digital effects, it has never been easier to make a performer resemble a fictional charge that they look nothing like in reality. However, there's also a fine line to tread. When translating characters from one form of media to another, a balance between the source material and the reimagining seen on screen is vital in terms of authenticity. Now, it's worth noting that reimagining established characters isn't necessarily doomed to calamity from the get-go, but it's a notably risky endeavour. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 movie characters who look nothing like their source material. Number 10. Shailene Woodley as Beatrice Tris Pryor, the Divergent series. Shailene Woodley is the best thing about the contrived sci-fi adaptations of the Divergent series, desperately trying to keep the doomed Enterprise afloat like a single salmon trying to lift a blue whale from the bottom of the ocean. With that being said, arguing that The Fault in Our Stars alum is the spitting image of her literary counterpart is like trying to posit that Conor McGregor looks like Margaret Thatcher. Veronica Roth, author of the novels on which the film series is based, brings her leading lady to life on paper with blonde hair, large blue eyes, and a long, narrow face. Considering that Woodley has auburn hair, piercing hazel eyes, and a distinctively oval profile, it's almost like production read Roth's books and decided to find someone who looked as far apart from the writer's description as physically possible. In terms of fidelity to the original, this is about as disastrous as it gets. Number 9. Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, Psycho. 1960 saw Anthony Perkins turn in one of the most seminal horror performances of all time. His chilling portrayal of Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's magnum opus Psycho is revered as one of the most memorable turns in cinematic history. But many fans are completely unaware that the actor's lanky build and handsome features are the polar opposite of the murderous crossdresser's appearance in the 1959 novel of the same name. This version of Psycho's unhinged villain is somehow even less appealing than Hitchcock's take on the character. The novel describes the proprietor of Bates Motel as an obese, balding alcoholic on the cusp of middle age, the antithesis of Perkins' innocent and unassuming facade. This inspired character evolution was precipitated by screenwriter Joseph Stefano. His qualms about the unsympathetic nature of the character as envisioned by the novel led to Hitchcock casting the charming Perkins in the role, leading to one of the most celebrated performances ever witnessed. Sometimes it pays to be different. Number 8. Emma Stone as Eugenia Skeeter Phelan, The Help. Based on Catherine Stockett's novel of the same name, 2011's The Help recounts the relationship between a young white woman and two black housemaids at the height of the civil rights movement in Mississippi. Despite receiving 4 Oscar nominations, the film's legacy has been irrevocably tainted in recent years. Star Viola Davis has repeatedly expressed regret for starring in Tate Taylor's picture, positing that it was created in the filter and cesspool of systemic racism. In addition to the movie's fraught reputation, The Help's final take on Skeeter looks nothing like the description of the character in the novel. Emma Stone may possess Eugenia's signature red hair, but her flowing locks are a hell of a long way from frizzy. Furthermore, the young woman's gangly stature and crooked nose, as alluded to by Stockett, are nowhere to be seen across 146 minutes. Number 7. Emma Watson as Hermione Granger, Harry Potter. Combining encyclopedic knowledge with a formidable streak a mile wide, Emma Watson smashes it out of the park as Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter film series. One of the most revered and popular fictional characters of all time, the actress brings her charge to life in such stunning fashion that even the most die-hard of fans have chosen to gloss over the fact that she looks nothing like the brightest witch of her age as described by series author J.K. Rowling. Very little of Hermione's signature look from the novels is conveyed by Watson's take on the character. Rowling describes Hermione as a young witch with bushy eyebrows, a mess of frizzy brown hair, and protruding teeth, although she allows Madame Pomfrey to shrink them to a more preferable size in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This visage is a far cry from Watson's appearance in the live-action adaptations of Rowling's novels, particularly as the series progresses and she grows older. The author was also initially critical of Watson's choice of casting, arguing that the actress was too pretty to play her ugly duckling Hermione. Number 6. Daniel Craig as James Bond, James Bond. Introducing a new generation of fans to one of popular culture's most iconic characters, Daniel Craig provided what is contentiously the most impressive turn as James Bond since the days of Sean Connery. He's tough as nails, ruggedly good-looking, and smooth as ice. Just what one would expect from the archetypal image of a modern spy. That is, of course, unless one happens to be Ian Fleming, a real-life naval intelligence officer during World War II and the author of the original James Bond novels. Fleming envisioned Bond with long hair falling over his forehead and a scar running down his cheek, physical attributes that were clearly left on the cutting room floor when making the movies. Not only is Craig's clipped dark blonde hair far too short to flop over his brow, but he is shorter and more muscular than described by the author. An incredible Bond Craig may have been, but 007's doppelganger he is categorically not. Although it's worth noting that none of the men tasked with playing Bond have mimicked Fleming's description exactly. Number 5. Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Bennet, Pride and Prejudice. When initially asked for his take on Elizabeth Bennet in 2005's Pride and Prejudice, Mr. Darcy describes his eventual wife's visage as tolerable but not handsome enough to tempt me. Charming. This sentiment is echoed by the film's source material and the 1813 novel of the same name, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. While Elizabeth is considered to be an attractive young woman, her eldest sister Jane is considered to be the beauty of the Bennet family. As such, choosing Keira Knightley for this role was probably not the most convincing course of action. Knightley is magnificent in her role, capturing the courageous and quick-witted nature of her charge with polished ease, but she also happens to be an exceedingly beautiful woman. As such, the notion of her playing a character who isn't physically attractive enough to capture the attention of Matthew McFadden's Mr. Darcy comes off as somewhat inauthentic. Indeed, Joe Wright was initially reluctant to cast Knightley as Bennet on this basis. The director was brought around after eventually meeting the actress, deciding that her tomboyish attitude would make her a perfect fit for the part of Elizabeth. Number 4. Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and Inferno. Tom Hanks is the cinematic equivalent of America's dad. Embodying the spirit of the affable US everyman, Hanks is about as close to universally beloved as one can hope to become in the Shark Tank of public opinion that is Hollywood. What Hanks is categorically not is a Harrison Ford in Harris Tweed type. The central protagonist of thriller mega hits in the vein of The Da Vinci Code and The Lost Symbol, Professor Robert Langdon is described by author Dan Brown as boyishly handsome, possessing a swimmer's body and a baritone voice that sounds like chocolate for the ears. Now, we love Tom Hanks as much as the next person, but let's be reasonable here. While he is roughly the same height as his fictional charge, Hanks is pushing 50 in his earliest appearance as Langdon and looks like it. The actor's build also isn't quite the debonair mental image cultivated by Brown's writing. But we love Tom Hanks, so let's not criticise anymore, eh? Number 3. Dakota Fanning as Jane, The Twilight Saga. Despite Twilight's immense popularity and enviable commercial returns, the films based on Stephenie Meyer's series of fantasy romance novels are pretty dismal in any sort of critical sense. Case in point, it literally took the franchise's male figurehead, Robert Pattinson, 10 years and a litany of stunning performances to convince the general public that he was actually a very good actor. Such are the levels of cheesy woodenness associated with his take on Edward Cullen. The series also happens to feature one of the worst cinematic representations of a book character from recent memory in Dakota Fanning's Jane. In the novels, Jane has brown hair, is tiny in stature, and possesses androgynous features to the point where she is almost indistinguishable from her male twin, Alec. Bella Swan initially mistakes her for a young boy upon meeting her for the first time. Not only is the distinctly feminine Fanning blonde, but she also stands 5 feet 4 inches tall. The actress decidedly isn't a giant, but she's a far cry from the minuscule stature alluded to by the novel's architect. Number 2. Humphrey Bogart as Philip Marlowe, The Big Sleep. An adaptation of Raymond Chandler's novel of the same name, 1946's The Big Sleep is one of the most acclaimed crime films of all time. Accordingly, it's ironic that Humphrey Bogart's appearance falls notably short of convincing when it comes to an accurate representation of lead protagonist Philip Marlowe. The hard-boiled private investigator is described in Chandler's novels as a tall man in his late 30s, weighing nearly 200 pounds. As such, the sight of the individual playing him, an actor who looked closer to 50 with a height barely scratching the ceiling of 5'8", is disastrously inaccurate on paper. If this wasn't Humphrey Bogart we were talking about, this could have gone down as one of the most catastrophic examples of miscasting in cinematic history. Fortunately, the inimitable performer effortlessly drags the audience's attention away from his questionable resemblance to Marlowe with a turn for the ages. Number 1. Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher, and Jack Reacher Never Go Back. For anybody who has read Lee Child's Jack Reacher series of crime thriller novels, this one might be the most egregious book-to-film character translation in history. Child's version of the drifting crime fighter is a physical monster of a man, and that's putting it mildly. Standing at 6'5" and weighing around 250 pounds, the former US military police officer possesses a 50-inch chest and hands the size of dinner plates. Reacher isn't exactly easy on the eye either, with notably rugged features befitting his real-life action hero status. As such, casting the diminutive Tom Cruise as this colossal destroyer was like giving Danny DeVito the leading role in a Tyson Fury biopic. Cruise is a bona fide action movie legend thanks to his turns in the likes of the Top Gun and Mission Impossible franchises, but is utterly unbelievable as Reacher due to his physical appearance. In addition to having the wrong hair and eye colour, Cruise's slim physique resembles Child's Charge if he were to be shrunk in the wash. And that's everything for this list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.